Welcome back to my channel. It's been a few weeks since I've been able to post here. I was traveling for work and just life in general is busy, and also coming up with ideas. It's hard to come up with ideas for a YouTube channel to post regularly. So I am back today with some content about planning and journaling. If you're new here, that's mostly what I talk about here is journaling and planning. I love stationery and anything related. And today I would like to talk about and then hopefully get responses with maybe some guidance or feedback on others' opinions, because I've been in a little bit of a hang up of how to continue journaling and what method, what medium I want to use to continue my journaling. I've been really overthinking it. I'm an overthinker in general, and I can overthink all kinds of things, but specifically it's been about my planning supplies and what to do with them going forward. So just a quick background. So far this year I've been using the Sterling Ink Pocket journal planner, and I've been writing 2 pages per day. It's been going great. I love it. I still love the size, but of course I love the size, but then of course I, get to thinking that I would rather the week size. Last year I was in a Hobonichi weeks for most of the year, except for hopping around to try out different things here and there, but most consistently in a Hobonichi weeks. And so I think I miss the size of it. So in the last few weeks, I've been thinking, okay, I would like to switch back into that size. So I've been doing the same kind of concept. I have other videos on it, how I use 2 pages per day. And I was using the N2 or the week size from Sterling Ink. And I also love that. But then I traveled for work, and of course while I'm traveling it's a lot harder to get stuff written, so then I was multiple days behind, which I've talked about in another video, and trying to be okay with missing days. And I do okay with being okay with it. That's a funny sentence, but I still get obsessive about wanting to get something written for each day. So then I'm always going back and making sure I document something from previous days that I missed. So then this last weekend I started thinking more again about how I'm using all these products. And I know it's presumptuous to think that someday my kids will want them. Maybe they will, maybe they won't. That's irrelevant to right now, because I still want to document and journal about my kids and what they're doing. And if they love it, great. If they don't, okay, that's fine too. But I'm just thinking, okay, if I use 2 of these a year, and let's say I journal for the next 30 years, of course maybe I'll have less to write about when my kids move out. I don't know. That'll be a journey that I'll have to cross when we get there. But for now, if I would use 2 of these per year, then you think in so many years I'm gonna have boxes full of notebooks, and that's super cumbersome. And I've been thinking about it more lately. I think about it all the time, quite honestly, because when I think about my parents' house or my in-laws' house, and I think of all the stuff that's in those houses that someday my husband and I will have to go through and get rid of stuff. And I know some generations are more sentimental about keeping things. I'm not. I don't care that a decoration belonged to a parent or a grandparent. If I don't love the decoration, then I'm not going to keep it. So I'm kind of coming at this from that mindset of what are my kids going to do someday with boxes full of notebooks? I don't want them to have heavy hearts and feel guilty that they have to keep all of these that I've written in, because I don't want to put that burden on them. If they want to keep them, that's fantastic. But then what happens to the next generation when they have kids, or those kids have kids? And I just think of all these continued generations having stuff, and future generations having this expectation put on them that they have to keep all the things. And I recognize not every family's like that. Every family's different, and that's totally fine. But I do know that a lot of people have that situation where that expectation is maybe put on them, or no, I don't want that to be my kids. I don't want them to feel obligated to keep these someday. So, but then what? Like, how, if I had my Ma's journal, or my mom's journal, my mother-in-law's journal, and she had documented all this stuff. I wouldn't want to throw it away. I would love it. I would love to read through it. But then I think of, okay, generation after generation, how do we store all these boxes of books? So this weekend, I have a previous video where I had talked about journaling and scrapbooking on my iPad. And so I actually printed off some pages. I have my iPad here, but I probably won't flip through it. I just printed some off, and then I could, this pink here was not part of the journal on my iPad. I just taped over it a little part that I didn't need to share, and, pink over pictures of my kids or anybody. So here's an example of a page that I have in my iPad. So I can write a little bit. It mostly revolves around my kids or our family, things we're doing, pictures that I've taken that day. So I just talked about how my daughter and I dressed very similarly on this day, and it was pretty funny, and that we ran to the mall and had to get some gifts for my father-in-law for his birthday. And so I've documented this in my iPad, and so now it's a digital scrapbook. That's one page. I'll show another page. So then for my father-in-law's birthday, I could do these pretty colors. If I'm being honest, in my notebook, I'm never going to get out all these colors because I'm too afraid to mess it up. So I won't do it. I am more okay with doing it on the iPad because I can erase there easily. So I have these pictures, my daughter and the candy board she made for her grandpa, and the chairs we got him for his birthday. So I can document all that. And then ideally, as I mentioned in a previous video, if I continued this and I actually kept up with my digital scrapbooking, what I would want to do is take it for the year, for 2025, and print it. I don't know where or how, but similarly to how you would get a school yearbook, I would want to send a PDF of all the pages that I've created with our pictures and then little notes to go with it. And I would send it to a printer, and they could print it off like a yearbook. So then I could still have something on my shelves to flip through. And I would also have a PDF version saved in the cloud. So then someday, generations after generations, they don't have to keep these yearbooks if they don't want to. No one has to keep them. That's my point. But especially years and years later, no one has to feel guilty excuse me, that they need to keep these, because there will be a PDF version in the cloud. Now my overthinking it comes to this point where I think this is not completely irrational, I suppose, but I read Station 11 right before the pandemic of 2020 hit, and it's a fantastic book, but an awful time to have read Station 11 right before that pandemic hit. And in that book, it's fascinating, but it just gives the perspective of what if electricity goes out and there's no way to have power going forward. So this is like totally overthinking it. And I get concerned that what if someday the power goes out and I don't have this digital version anymore? I recognize that this is like totally irrational. But like I said, I'm an overthinker, and this is where I get hung up. Do I do a digital version and risk that someday there could be not be power, but I would have printed it off? Alternatively, I overthink, it does happen. People are unfortunate and they have house fires. Then I would lose all of this. So there's not a 100% sure-proof way, but I figured this way I would have a digital version and I would have a printed version at the end of each year. So then I got to think, and then also, so my journaling that I do, I could do, if I don't have pictures or I want to write more about details for that day, I could include that in that digital scrapbook. And this would be mostly, this is where I'm at, this is where the conclusion I've come to. This would mostly be journaling for the kids to want to read someday. And so interesting. So like if I run into a friend while walking outside, I don't really need to include that here because someday my kid's not going to want to or need to read or care to read that I ran into a friend and we chatted on the street for a while. My conclusion, so then I'm sorry, I'm jumping around here. So over the weekend I was thinking, okay, do I also just totally move my journal to the iPad and journal everything. So here I would write about, I ran into my friend, or I had lunch with a friend today. Things that aren't really relevant to anyone else in the family, but that make me happy and I want to have a memory of. Do I want to journal everything on the iPad? And I love that idea, but I really, 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 really love to flip through paper and pen notebooks. So I've been really hung up the last few days on how do I differentiate, how do I separate, how do I make my digital scrapbook to keep memories and pictures and notes for my family, but also enjoy keeping things in a paper journal. So the conclusion I've currently come to, and we'll see if it can stick, is that I will continue to do the digital scrapbooking and journaling, things that are totally relevant to the family that I would want like in a yearbook. And I will do that on my iPad and keep track of that. And then I will I obviously have purchased way too many planners for the year, and I will take one of those and it will be purely my planner / journaling just for me, or little notes for me. And I'm kind of excited about it because then I would have the whole year in one book, which if you've seen other videos, I would use more than one book per year. But this way I would have one book for the whole year, and it would be my planner. And hopefully I will get better at planning. I'm more of a journaler than a planner, but I would like to become more of a planner as well to get more organized and just get better there. So I would also be able to make notes to myself for each day. I could still journal a little bit each day, but I went to lunch with my friend Katie today and I could write about that. And I ran into Bethany while I was walking through the neighborhood. Those kinds of things that I would still get the paper and pen feeling and be able to write things for myself that make me happy. And I would still get to then flip through the fun notebooks that we all love so much. That is what I'm currently thinking. I recognize I'm overthinking this way too much. If anyone has advice or opinions and would love to share, I would love to hear them. Has anyone ever digitally scrapbooked? I look online and in Facebook groups and I see a little bit, but not necessarily how I want to do it, which is a whole separate topic anyway, of how I always think I need to find reference points online or in groups that someone else is doing it, so I should do it this way, which is totally crazy because if I like it, I should just do it the way I like to do it. That's a tangent. I'll talk about that another day. But is anyone else digitally scrapbooking, and how's that going, and how do you save your files? Because I'm also worried about files getting deleted just with the apps on iPad if they crash out sometimes. I appreciate you watching today. If you've made it to the end, thank you so much. Thank you for spending time with me. I hope your planning and journaling is going well, and I will talk to you soon.